Hello, did you ever think about studying variations but you didn't really find a good way? I'm here to teach you and explain it to you in a really good way. Before we start, I'm Igcse. It's not me, but whatever, Igcse.science.notesz. And in this video, we will be doing variation and genetic diversity. Basically, this is how PMT divides the units for the AQA A level biology. These are the lessons. We've done already DNA in the previous video, and in this video we will be doing variation and genetic diversity, as I told you. Before we go deep into variation now, let's just try to revise, or not to revise, but basically tell you that you'll find here the definitions, and there are some stuff that you need to know. If you'd like to just go through them, I'm gonna tell you all of them whenever we need to. Let's get started. Like, you know what variation is, right? When everything varies and there's difference. But there are here two types of variations. One is the interspecific variation and two is the intraspecific variation. As you can see here, there's an E and there is an RA. Okay. I'm not sure if you like me to say as I was saying, like explain this way or slowly, but whatever, I'm always gonna repeat as usual, and do not worry as well. Do not ever worry, okay? Let's go deep into it. But now there is something called intraspecific variation, right? The intraspecific variation basically is when members of the same species differ from each other, while the interspecific variation when one species differs from another species. Again, what do we mean by interspecific variation? Basically, when one species differ from another species. The intraspecific variation when members of the same species differ from each other. For example, like, I'm just gonna put it black in order to be able to draw. We have this species, and we have this species, right? First species, and this is the community, right? Whatever. So black is the community. Looks like something from Minecraft for some reason. This species differ from this species, right? This is blue, and this is circled. This one, and this is one is red, and let's say it's wait, let us do something more special here. Okay, this is a red and a rectangle, and this one is green and triangle. So this differ from this, and this differ from this, and this differ from this, and it's like everyone differs from everyone, right? But if we go deep into this species, we find that there is the first one looks like that, second one looks like this, third one inside the species looks like that. They're all human beings, but this one has blue eyes, this one has green eyes, this one has brown eyes, this one has short curly hair, this one has straight hair, this one has wavy hair, this one has a long nose, this one has a really short nose, you can't see it, and small one, this one has another type of nose, whatever. So they're all the same species, right? They're all same species. They all go under the same exact species, right? But they vary. They have some variation. And this is the interspecific variation. But how the species differ from each other, this how it differs from this one, and this one how it differs from that one, is the differentiation between the species. Sorry. This is intra. So this differentiation between the species is interspecific. The differentiation inside one species is basically the intra. So again, interspecific variation is when one species differ from another species, while the intraspecific variation is when members of the same species differ from other species. And basically, these are the two types of the variation. Like, after we finish the types of variation, we need to know something that is called sampling. We will be also knowing one type of the sampling, which is basically the random sampling. But what is it called? Generally, what is sampling? Sampling basically refers to that this involves taking measurements of individuals selected from the population being investigated. If these individuals are representative, then the measurement can be relied on. What if they are not representative? What can it go be like? What can be sampling bias or by chance? Sampling bias is when the selection process may be biased. The investigators may make unrepresentative choice. Second way is by the chance, where the individuals chosen may not be representative. And the best way is to prevent the sampling bias and to eliminate the human development in choosing the sample can be achieved by the random sampling, which is basically this one type. But again, what is sampling? For example, we need to know what is the percentage in the population that has brown eyes. So we go to a place. That contains 100%, and then we see 50%, for example, eyes, and we check. Okay, 25 had brown eyes, 10 had black eye, 10 had green eyes. Here, brown. And another 10 had the black eyes, and how much is that? 45. And another 5 had blue eyes. Okay, everything's in B, blue. Okay, this is the sampling bias. Sampling, sorry. Okay, so you just see, so we say okay, so so that 25% from the 50 we took, so from the 100%, 50% is having brown eyes. Great. But sometimes you can go to a place, for example, let's say you go to for example, you go to a country, okay? You go to this blue country where everyone knows, or blue city, or for example, let me tell you something. You go to a country that it's known that they have brown eyes, okay? But you go to a city, a special city, and inside the city you go to a special house, okay? Where this family is the only family, for example, or one of the only families that all of their eyes are brown. So you go there, you find all the people there, you find the grandmas, the whatever people, they're around 60. And then you ask them, oh my god, guys, let me see your eyes. So 55 of them, for example, or let me say, they are not 50, let me say they are 50, or let me say they are 100, to be easier. They are 100, 70 or like 85 of them have brown eyes, and only some of the husbands or whatever having blue eyes as expected. So 15 blue, 85% brown. So this guy, the investigator, will say, oh guys, this country, let's say it's called X, the X country isn't blue as everyone says, it doesn't have only blue eyes. I saw that 85% were brown and only 15 was blue, okay? He actually did an investigation, but that was just a small part. So basically, he went to people who had brown eyes, even if it wasn't on purpose. So if it wasn't on purpose, it's just a chance where the individuals chosen may not be representative. Or it's on purpose, which means it's sampling bias. The investigator may make unrepresentative choice, sampling bias. Or maybe, for example, you go and ask people, how do you guys like this restaurant? So 50%, let me say, he asks 10 people. 6 will say, yes, I like it. 4 will say, no, I don't like it. So the guy just write, oh my god, guys, 8 said, yes, I like it. 2 said, I didn't try it. He lied. It's not representative. It's bias. He wants this restaurant. It's his restaurant. So he wants everyone to say, oh my god, it's very good. Like, he wants reviews for some reason. So the best way to prevent this sampling bias is to eliminate human involvement in choosing the samples. This can be achieved by the random sampling. Basically, from the definitions, random sampling a population to eliminate bias. For example, grid square and coordinates. Grid square and coordinates are ways of doing where, for example, I don't really remember it. It's more into sociology, by the way. Sociology, psychology, and this kind of stuff. For example, you have this land. For example, you have this land. and then you're gonna put like a net something on it that is dividing every part of the land into millions and millions of squares, and you stand, for example, over here, and you'll say, I will ask the people every 2 squares. Like you're standing here, so the first square here, 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 whatever, here, here, whatever, okay? So on the blue spots, you'll be standing there and seeing the people who go there randomly, and you ask them. Whatever people that are going through here or here, you're not going to ask them. You're only going to go through the grid square that is shown. So when you ask them, that's basically very random, right? And this is a type of the random sampling. Divide the study area into a grid of number lines, then use the random numbers, obtain a series of coordinates, take samples at the intersection of each pair of the coordinates. We cannot remove chance completely, but can minimize its effects. How can that happen? Basically by using a large sample size. For example, the guy of the restaurant. Okay, I'm not biased, but I went and asked 10 people. Those 10 people, basically 8 of them were friends, and 8 of them didn't, for example, were biased to each other, or one of them liked the restaurant and they didn't want him to feel like, oh no. So everyone said, yes, we love it. And the 2 of the other people who were random said, no, we didn't like it. Although 7 from here didn't like it, or let's say 4, or whatever. Or 8 of them really liked it, and 2 didn't like it. So basically these 10 are 10. But if you go to 100, you're going to hear more opinions, or like, let's say 1,000. You're going to find 500 liked it, or let's say same percentage, 700 liked it, 200 didn't like it, 100 didn't try it. There are gonna be like more stuff. They're gonna talk about stuff and etc. But if 8, they're a group of friends. They either liked it or they didn't like it. It's just not there's no chance in here. So basically, we can remove it by using a large sample size. The more individuals selected, the smaller the probability that chance will influence the result. The greater the sample the size, the more relevant the data. And analysis of data collected, where basically the data can be analyzed using statistical tests to determine the extent chance has influenced the data. The analysis of the data collected, the data can be analyzed using statistical tests to determine the extent chance has influenced the data. Variation is last thing before we go to the genetic differences. Variation is the result of 2 main factors. That's the first of the genetic differences, pardon. So variation is the result of 2 main factors. There 2 things happen in the world that makes variation. Either genetic differences or environmental influences. Genetic differences such as mutation, meiosis, or fusion of gametes. Environmental influences such as stuff from environment, as you can see. So let me change the color, make something green or something. Okay. Again, do you know what is the genetic difference? Or why do they happen? Basically, these are due to the different types of genes that each individual organism possessed. These changes from generation to generation. Genetic variation occurs as a result of either mutation, meiosis, or fusion of gametes. Mutation basically happens because of, for example, chemicals, X-rays, gamma rays, etc., right? And these are sudden changes to genes and chromosomes which may be passed to the next generation. Maybe whatever the genes of the fetus, or maybe the person is around 40 years old, all fine, but went to the place where have gamma rays, so it becomes mutated, some genetic mutation. Also can happen a sudden change to genes and chromosomes will be passed to the next generation. Sometimes also it happens to the fetus or embryos, etc. Or it can happen during meiosis, where this form of nuclear division forms the gametes. This mixes the genetic material before it is passed to the gametes. Last thing is the fusion of gametes, where in sexual reproduction, offspring inherit some characteristics of each parent, which gametes fuse with which a random process adds to variety. The way that they're basically variation, but environmental, the light, the climatic condition, the soil condition, the pH, the food availability. Okay? And now we're done with variation. Let's just go through everything again. The variation. Variation is divided into two types: interspecific variation, which one species differ from another species, and the intraspecific variation, where when members of the same species differ from each other. There are types of sampling. For example, the random sampling, and basically sampling involves taking measurements of individuals selected from the population being invested to be representative, then the measure can be relied upon. There are two ways that it's not representative, either sampling bias or the chance. And then there is random sampling to prevent the sampling bias, either by dividing study area, using random numbers, taking samples, etc. To remove the chance, use a large sample size analysis of the data collected. And there are two ways or factors for the variation: genetic difference, such as mutation, meiosis, fusion of gametes, or environmental influences, such as light, climatic conditions, soil condition, pH, and food availability. Okay, great. طيب, what about genetic diversity? Where basically the greater the number of alleles. Before we go to the genetic diversity, I want you just to know that one of the best ways to study is to write. I'm gonna send you the notes I'll write inshallah for you guys, but also make sure that you write yourself while we study together. So let's just like breathe in, breathe out. Okay, that's great. Genetic diversity. What do you know about genetic diversity? Genetic diversity basically has three keywords as well that we must know. But what do you know about genetic diversity? You know what diversity is, and you know earlier what genetic means. So basically, the greater the number of alleles, where basically the difference of the genes that all members of a species possess, the greater the genetic diversity of the species. The greater the genetic diversity, the more likely it is that a species will be able to adapt to some environmental change. This is due to a wider range of alleles and therefore a wider range of characteristics. There is a greater probability that some individuals will possess a characteristic that suits to the new environment condition. Guys, let's get started. So, genetic diversity, right? Right. What happens as the greater, the greater the genetic diversity of the species. What increases the genetic diversity of the species? What increases the genetic diversity of the species? The greater the number of alleles. طيب, what happens after you increase the genetic diversity? The more likely it is that a species will be able to adapt to some environmental change. Why? Due to wider range of alleles So, therefore a wider range of characteristics, which some individual possess a characteristic that suits to the new environmental condition. طيب, again, let's read let's read it again. Genetic diversity. There is a factor that increases the genetic diversity of the species, which is basically the greater the number of alleles that all members of the species possess. Like, is it a good thing that there is greater diversity of the genetics? If it's good, why? Because the greater of genetic diversity, the more likely it is that a species will adapt to some environmental change. Environmental change such as what? Such as lots of stuff, as we said, soil factors, pH. We're not only talking about the human being here. So soil for plants, etc., the pH, soil pH, food availability, light, etc. Like, is it a really good thing to adapt to this, or it's a better to die? Biological words, it's better to adapt. So since it's better to adapt, it's greater genetic diversity is great because this is due to a wider range of alleles and therefore a wider range of characteristics, which will help individuals possess characteristics that suits to the environmental conditions. Type. The selective breeding. Basically, selective breeding, you might heard about it before. Selective breeding, basically also known as artificial selection. It involves selecting individuals with desired characteristics and using them to parent the next generation. For example, if there's a plant who looks like this, a flower that looks like this, but people now trend isn't a flower that looks like that. They want isn't a flower that looks like that. Okay, they want a flower that looks like that. So whoever is planting a flower, put some genetic stuff in it, or like artificial selection, selective breeding, gets another flower, whatever, etc. Whatever they do, and form at the very end a flower. Try to their best, a flower that looks like whatever is the trend. This is called artificial selection, which is basically the selective breeding. They, for example, instead of this plant getting breeded with this plant, they make it breed with this plant. Okay, so why? It involves selecting individuals with desired characteristics and using them to parent the next generation, like this one, for example. Offspring that do not exhibit the characteristics are killed or prevented from breeding. If more of this happens, they just put a big if more of this happens, big X, they just want these. Or what happens, it's not our problem. But the variety of alleles in the population is restricted to a small number of desired alleles. Desired is the word. Okay? The founder effect occurs when the new individuals colonize a new region. The founder effect, again, let's just talk about the founder effect, occurs when few individuals colonize a new region. They carry with them only a small fraction of the alleles of the population. These alleles may not be representative. The new population that develops from the colonizer will show less genetic diversity than the population they came from. What do we mean by that? There's an effect called the founder effect, right? It occurs when there is an effect. It's called the founder effect. What is it, or when does it occur? It occurs when few individuals colonize a new region. So basically, they carry with them only a small fraction of these alleles of the population. These alleles may not be representative. The new population that develops from the new colonizers will show less genetic diversity than the population they came from. Right? Is that something good? They're not adapted well. Genetic bottlenecks. Populations may sometimes suffer a drop in numbers. This may be due to things such as volcanic eruption or interference by man. The few survivors will possess a small variety of alleles than a large population. As they breed and become re-established, then the genetic diversity. What is that? Why do you guys why? Genetic bottleneck. Basically, when the population sometimes suffer a drop in number. What is that shape? This may be due to things such as the volcanic eruption and interference by man. Like, for example, there is 100,000 in this population. Drop 50,000, 70,000, whatever thousand. Why can this happen? Volcanic eruption, interference by man, whatever. The few survivors, let's say 30,000 that survived, or 50,000 that survived, or whatever who survived, will possess smaller variety of the alleles than the original population, than the 100. And as they breed and become re-established, the genetic diversity will remain restricted because they breed from each other at the very end. Last thing before we finish this chapter, the ethics of selective breeding. Interfering with nature, animal rights and welfare. Is it beneficial to the environment, the coast? So, is it the right of whoever is planting to kill or prevent from breeding the plant or the animal or the whatever they do not want them to extend? Is it their right? Isn't it costly that you're gonna kill, you're gonna help in reproducing these stuff, and then when you don't like them, you're just gonna stop that, whatever, you're gonna try your best not to make them breed with each other. Is it beneficial to the environment? Is it animal rights and welfare? Is it animal rights? Where are the animal rights over here? So yeah, not sure. No, I did not. Okay, so let me tell you how can you study. In case you like listening and then studying yourself, please make sure you write your own notes. Study from the notes of the PMT. Study from the definitions of the PMT. Study the key points of the PMT. We're going to do it together. They're very useful. Study from the or not study. Just go through the points. We're gonna go through them with. We're gonna go through the syllabus now together. It's this one, okay, 9610 is the international AQA A level. You're just gonna go through the points. Let me tell you something here. It's gonna tell you just a bit of what you need to know, right? So here we have DNA replication. No, where is the genetic diversity? Yes, here is the meiosis, for example. We finished the meiosis before. Genetic diversity is here. So genetic diversity within or between species can be measured by between the base sequence of DNA and whatever. Species diversity, all of this we're going to be doing it later, right? So you just can go through them whenever you want to make sure you cover the point. So we're not covering all of these points, of course, today, or not even the points that is supposed to be shown over here, because we still have all of these. They are divided into many chapters. It's the variety of life, etc., right? So other stuff, okay, do not worry. Anyways, there is also this link, Quizlet link, which is very good and useful. I haven't tried doing it till now, but it is useful. Let's do genetic diversity, for example. We're doing this stuff in another video, but like, let's have an example of genetic diversity. Mutation, for example, what is mutation? Any change to the quantity or the DNA, etc. Not this one. This one is very useful as well. I'm gonna cover all of this, guys, with you together. Do not worry. This is for all chapters. First of all, it's for all subjects. You can find here, for example, biology. Not all subjects, biology, chemistry, and math. The chapter is over here, and then we can go to the nucleic acids. Genetic diversity and adaptation. For example, here the genetic diversity, the effects of genetic diversity, etc. Okay, then there's this one, which is I don't see it very useful, to be honest. Not like it's useful for an extent. Like, do not ever try to what is it called? Like, depend on it. And then there's this chapter, website for worksheets, exam topics, whatever. There's also this one. It has some stuff as well. Whatever, it's not working now. And all of this, guys, I'm gonna put you the links in the comment and in the description below. Have a nice, beautiful day, and inshallah I'll be covering all of these stuff with you guys, like in separate videos. So do not worry. If you do not like doing it yourself, you like listening, you're a listener. Or if you're not and you want to watch, whatever it is, have a nice, beautiful day. I'm also doing, by the way, like whatever notes I'm doing, I'm gonna send it to you inshallah on the Instagram account. Have a nice, beautiful day.